EVs are here to stay whether you like it or not, and Lexus is finally getting into the game with the RZ450E. And if this shape looks familiar, it's because this is the same car as the Toyota BZ4X or the Subaru Solterra. If you want to check out my review of the Toyota BZ4X, check out that link up in the corner. This is the luxury version of those cars, and this one specifically is the RZ450E. And with all the extra features and delivery, minus all of the incentives, you can get this for $67,695. That's a lot of change. That's about $10,000 to $15,000 more than the Toyota BZ4X. And that is the problem with these luxury EVs. You pay a lot more, but you don't necessarily get more. Yes, you do get more power and a lot more features inside, but when it comes to EVs for this critical metric, this one does a lot worse. And I'll tell you more about it in the driving experience section of this video. But first, let's start this video with the exterior. And the exterior of the Lexus RZ450 looks a lot more luxurious than the cheaper Toyota BZ4X. Starting with this two-tone paint, which is a $1,300 option, it's impressive looking. It's called Black and Copper Crest. The painted portions of the body looks like it's made of copper, and with large swaths of black, the whole car looks like a big Duracell branded battery, which is appropriate because this is an EV. The front end is distinctively Lexus with the hourglass shaped front. That's highlighted by the black paint. And then the LED headlights is unmistakably Lexus. You get that upside down checkmark daytime running lights, and you get the LED headlights as well. The side looks very sculpted, and it looks a lot like the UX and the NX SUVs. On the driver's side, this is where you plug in, and here's your combined charging system, your J1772 plug and the DC pin. So this doesn't have the North American charging standard system just yet. For the wheels, you get 20-inch wheels with the 10 multi-spoke design, very luxurious looking. Looking from the back, I think this is the best angle to take a look at the Lexus RZ450E. You get the two-tone roof right there, and then you also get the Lexus single taillight. The unified taillight is something that they've done for a lot of their Lexus SUVs. At the top of the hatch, you find these fins here that look kind of funny, but I guess they improve the aerodynamic performance. And if you look at this hatch, it is severely cutting off any potential cargo capacity back there. So this sort of matches that sport activity vehicle look that you could find in other brands. This is a pretty good looking SUV, but then again, there's not a lot of bad looking SUVs out there. So this somewhat blends into the background. If it weren't for this insane looking paint, this is the best part of this car, in my opinion. Now, inside the Lexus RZ, you find a round steering wheel. Now, Lexus has mentioned that a yoke-style steering wheel will be available, and that will come with a steer-by-wire system. Now, you let me know in the comments whether that's something you look forward to, because the method of steering is going to be completely different than what you're used to. But until that time, we have the typical steering wheel experience, and the wheel itself is covered in this rubbery, it doesn't feel like leather, it's something else, and it feels a bit odd in my opinion, but very grippy. These buttons are the same ones that you'll find in other modern Lexus steering wheels. This one has a set of soft touch and physical buttons as well, and this corresponds to the heads-up display that you have up there. So I like how you can just graze on the buttons and that shows up on the menu system in the heads-up display. Very neat way of keeping the steering wheel looking very simple while adding a lot of functionality to the other systems that this car has. The cruise control functions are now in the steering wheel instead of on the stalk that's usually found in other Lexus and Toyota vehicles. And I love how you could turn on the adaptive cruise control and the lane keeping system with the simple press of a button. Now, moving on to the center console, let's start off with this big 14-inch touchscreen, and the main area is really this smaller section here, just like other Lexus vehicles, and the lower 1/3 is taken up by the climate controls, which is always on the screen. And that's a good thing because you could just jump through all the different menus, but all of the critical climate functions are always going to be there. This has dual zone temperature controls, of course, and I love how the center of that dial is also a screen, so that's a very nice modern touch. The one very small downside of having your climate controls on a touchscreen is that it's a touchscreen. So you might be playing with the volume dial here, and if you're not looking, you might accidentally change the fan setting on this thing, so you find later that you're no longer in the auto program mode. Again, that's a very minor problem to have in this very large, luxurious looking touchscreen. And then down below, you have your camera controls, parking assistance controls, you have 3 USB-C ports, and down below you have a wireless charger. And I don't know what Toyota and Lexus did with their wireless chargers, but but within this past year, these systems have gotten a lot better than 2 or 3 years ago. So I could just carelessly throw my phone in here and it will maintain a charge throughout my whole trip. Right behind that, we have the gear shifter, and the way this works is you press down on the dial and then turn left to go in reverse, and then push down to go into neutral, and then to the right for drive. And to go into park, you just press the P button. And then you have your traction control off, your parking brake, and your auto brake hold. You have 2 cup holders here, and there is no glove box compartment. You have to use the area underneath the armrest. So storage solutions pretty limited in this Lexus RZ, but the whole presentation is very clean. It's not very cluttered. It's not Tesla sparse, but not cluttered like most cars from a few years ago. There are 2 features very noteworthy about this car, and first, this is the electrochromic glass roof. This is a $550 option. It won't open like your sunroof, so this is just fixed glass. And right now, you have it in this semi-transparent setting, but with the press of a button, you can make this somewhat clear. It's not completely clear. You still have this cloudy haze over it, so it's not as nice of a look, but the fact that you could just change it from semi-transparent to somewhat less semi-transparent is kind of a cool thing. And I have jumped into the car while it's in this semi-transparent setting after it's been baking in the sun for several hours in the middle of summer, and I can tell you right now that this feels just like you have a normal roof on a car. The other noteworthy feature of this car is the digital latch. We have gone away from mechanical latches and into something electronic. Now, why would we go to an electronic latch? Well, this car has a lot of sensors. When you're driving, it can sense all the vehicles around you. And when you are parked on a busy street, like parallel parked on a busy street, this will prevent you from fully opening the door if there's oncoming traffic. Now, you might be worried, what happens if I run out of juice or the low voltage battery? What happens? Well, you can still open the door by pulling on the latch twice. So because of that, it just functions like a normal car. Now, how about the second row? There's actually a good bit of room for the second row. You get 37.5 inches of rear leg room. With the models with this fixed glass roof, you get 39.7 inches of rear headroom. I'm 5'8", and I'm very comfortable in here. And while you're in the back seat, you also get heated seats and a couple of USB-C ports. Now, as for cargo space, this does have that very steeply raked rear windshield, and that cuts a little bit into the cargo space. You still get a good amount of room here with 34.1 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats, but it just makes you wonder how much more utility you can get out of this thing if the rear profile of the car was just slightly changed. Now, fold the second row down and you get 55.6 cubic feet of space. Now, how about the driving experience? The Lexus RZ is a pure Lexus driving experience through and through. It's quiet, smooth, and very comfortable for commutes. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there is no engine in the engine bay. There's no dozens of parts that rotate and vibrate at thousands of RPMs. In fact, almost all EVs have this very quiet and smooth driving feel. This Lexus RZ does ride a little bit better than the Toyota BZ4X, thanks to all of the nice things that add to the comfortable driving experience. Like the spectacular Mark Levinson audio system, it sounds really nice in here when you're just on your very busy commutes. There's also a lot of nice soft touch materials that just add a little bit more sound deadening to filter out all of that unwanted noise. What's not so great about this car is the electric range, because this gets about 196 miles on a full charge. That's out of the 72-ish kilowatt hour battery. And here's where you pay more, a whole lot more, and get a whole lot less. Since this is a luxury car with a lot more weight to pull around, all of these nice materials, all of these extra features, all of that results in more weight that this car has to shuttle around. So physics dictate that when you're carrying more weight, it takes more energy to move that weight around. So this car takes about 36 kilowatt hours of charge to travel 100 miles. Whereas the Toyota BZ4X, which is basically an identical car, albeit it does have smaller motors, so it's a lot less powerful, and that takes about 34 kilowatt hours to drive the same 100 miles. What's also not so great is the charging rate. And this applies to the Toyota BZ4X and also the Subaru Solterra, because this car is capped at 150 kilowatts. Now, that's not such a big problem if you always charge at home, and most Electrify America stations are capped at 150 kilowatts anyway. But for the Hyundai Ioniq brand and also the Kia EV6s, those can take advantage of the fastest chargers out there, up to 350 kilowatts. So while you're waiting in your very expensive luxury EV, you'll be watching all of those cheaper EVs get done with their charging and back on their way, giving you plenty of time wondering where your money went. At these DC fast charging stations, you'll be waiting for up to 1 hour to get from low to 80% state of charge. And this was the same story with the BZ4X that I drove. And when you're trying to charge at super cold temperatures, the charging rate may be severely throttled because Toyota and Lexus are super conservative about these things. And for level 2 charging, or when you're just charging at home, this will go to full in about 11 hours. So this is not really a problem if you have a house and a dedicated level 2 charger, because you will always have this full when it comes time to go to work on the next day. But if you're thinking about taking this on a long road trip somewhere, really think twice, because this may severely impact how you do your road trip planning. So charging at an Electrify America station here, and found two problems with this Lexus RZ450. First, the display as to how much time is left to fully charge the car. It's only displayed on this tiny screen. I guess that's sufficient, but you've got this 14-inch touchscreen, and a lot of that display is put to waste. Why not have some sort of a nice imagery here where it's showing, hey, this thing is charging and how much time is left? You're limited to this tiny screen. The second one is that the navigation system doesn't seem to have a way to find EV charging stations. This seems to be the stock experience for navigation with Toyota and Lexus cars. There's no preset EV charging destinations like in some other cars. It shows you where the closest one is. So because of that, I don't think that there's a way to tell the car that I am going to a EV charging destination so that you can precondition the battery. I don't know if there's any sort of preconditioning systems in this car so that when you're driving in cold weather, you could warm up the battery at the same time you're driving so that it charges most effectively. Not an issue right now because it's about 89 degrees outside, so the battery is more than happy to accept the charge. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way to precondition the battery in this car. The display here also doesn't tell you what the charging rate is, so the information that EV drivers normally care about is sort of invisible to you. The only way to find out is to go outside the car and then check what the charging rate is. Earlier it started with 77 kilowatts. And currently it is down all the way to 52 kilowatts. As for the straight line performance, it's not that noteworthy because the dual electric motors provide about 308 total system horsepower. It's quick, but it's very much average for EVs. Overall, this Lexus RZ450E is probably what you should expect out of luxury EVs. They're very posh inside, quiet, lots of technology, but you do pay for it with less efficiency. And that's the problem with these luxury EVs, is that you pay a lot more and you unfortunately get less because there's a lot more features inside. Yes, certain things do get improved, like your quality of life, but for that very important metric, range for EVs, it will go down. And unfortunately, this is sub 200 miles. The Subaru Solterra and the Toyota BZ4X, you could get about 225, 230. Still not great compared to other EVs, but those 30 miles might make a big difference. And with EVs in general, this is really made for people who live in houses and have that dedicated level 2 charger, because if you don't have that, then the living experience with these EVs is going to be completely different. It's going to be a lot worse. So if you are considering about buying EVs, also consider having the ability to reliably charge your car at all times. And currently, I think this Lexus RZ450 is really made for people who have a secondary car. So for those extra long road trips, leave this at home, take the other car. And since you're still watching this, check out my other review of the Toyota BZ4X over here. I think you'll find that pretty enlightening. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. My name is Hanson. That's the 2024 Lexus RZ450E, and I'll see you in the next one.